What's going on? Welcome to the Bastards Council podcast. We fucked up. The video got cut about half an hour before we ended. It's a really long podcast with really awesome fucking discussion. So you'll see black screens or images or whatever the fuck Ivan decides to do. But it's really awesome. Definitely check this out. And yeah, welcome to the language of the people.
The language of the people. Alright. Are you ready? Come on, break it down. Alright, so in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Confessions number 21. Woo!
Nice
And
save.
this
Nice
is the Bastards Council with J to the O no, Vin, Ivy, no Armin, but we have Qubes returning.
Glad to be back.
You're the first recurring guest.
Ooh.
Who's not in the council? Yeah.
That's
Jimmy.
I mean, that was
Yeah.
that's yeah.
Because Jimmy's come twice.
Actually, and he was like 2 days in a row. 2
2
times
weeks.
in a row.
Did he come lately?
No.
Well, he
Jimmy
was
goes
here.
late. Jimmy goes late.
He was there twice within the last 21 week, that's for sure.
What?
What?
Huh?
I didn't get that either. I just heard that's for sure. I was like, huh?
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Yes.
For sure.
So,
So,
So
how's it going?
pretty to the left.
To the left,
Yeah, me too.
Left
as
to the
opposed
left.
to the right.
As,
well, that
opposed
sounds
to
accurate.
center, you know.
Okay,
yeah.
the center.
Yeah.
It's just regular stuff.
Speaking of left, well, I shouldn't say that, but actually, it's no. But okay. What do we talk about? We could talk about what we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
What was that?
Okay.
That was
Talk
the
about many
intention.
things.
Well, I guess that's the intention. This is kind of like, you might say, think of it as a continuation to that Get Offended episode, in a way, but not really.
I would
Then
say-
you look like you had something to say as if I was saying something that wasn't true.
Get defended.
Get defended. Get defensive. So this afternoon I was on Facebook and I saw this post that someone posted. I know who this guy and I know how he is. He likes to either start discussions or he'll push. He likes to shit disturb a little
Push
bit.
buttons.
Push buttons. And I know that he is not like a male chauvinist, and I just know that.
But how do you know this for real?
Dude, I just know from what shit that he posts and how what he says and stuff. But he decided to post this infogram. Yeah, that's what it's called. Infogram. And it basically said, it was kind of like showing how men don't have it easy either, in the sense that like they're the most that are killed in battle, they're the most likely to not get custody of kids in a divorce, the most more likely to commit suicide than women, whatever. It's just like little stats like that. And I was about to comment saying, hey dude, better be careful, you might offend someone. And then I put ... men actually.
Yeah.
And just as I was about to type that, I see there's a bunch of responses. I just started looking, and the first response is a dude, not agreeing with her, but like starting bitching it out. And then I just see this discussion. I'm like, motherfucker, like, guys, this is clearly a joke. This is clearly something that was supposed to, he wanted to probably rile up a couple of girls.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I think even the girls would have realized he was being an idiot, like stupid, funny. And instead, these guys are taking it seriously and arguing. And I'm like, man, like...
But the things he was saying, are they like actual facts? Like all of that, it's true, right?
Well,
I mean,
okay,
it makes sense to me,
makes
but I don't know if
sense.
it's
Okay,
true.
it makes sense. Let's say they're killed more in battle, but there's more guys that go to war.
Exactly.
There's more men. in the
regardless
thing.
of that, but the
Like
thing
the
with
divorce thing
the
and all
court
that.
thing,
Yes.
there's
Okay.
There's
It's all-
both men and women involved.
We get it,
that's-
and you can look at it and say, oh, this guy's just being, he's saying that men are suffering also. But it's like, look, we know for a fact women are paid less. We know for a fact women are fighting for equal rights and all this. So like, this is clearly, to me, was a joke. I thought it was funny. I just found that it was funny that no girl responded. In fact, it was guys acting like as if they were the
100%
girls that, and it's like, man, like, why are people getting offended for other people?
Well,
Especially when this was not even supposed to meant to offend. I'm pretty sure it was meant like, hey, look at this, I want to cause some shit right now.
I think guys like to be behind women just to the fact that they want to look good towards them.
Right.
I think that's what it is as well. When they get into an argument, some guy's gonna want to be at the woman's side, so the woman can be like, yeah, he's with us, you know.
There's a lot of people.
Some guys feels good about
Well,
that.
I'm sure there's some of that, but I
Yeah.
also kind of believe it's like people believe they're holier than thou and they want to save the other person, which is just morally superior.
Yeah.
And giving that as like fodder for the person to come in and like save the fucking day. Like, what do you think? Like, why would you post this? You know, that's completely fucking inaccurate. And I think it has more to do with people believing they're superior in some way.
And they have an audience now because of social media.
That's it.
Yeah.
The holier than thou-ness is definitely there. I mean, obviously, there's going to be some things that people say, and like, you know, guys or girls that jump in.
Yeah.
If it's something stupid and completely fucking
Yeah. Like if it
nonsensical,
wasn't a joke and the guy was just like stating an opinion, you don't agree with it, that's different.
Yeah,
You
like
know?
there's plenty of people out there that are legitimately assholes. You know, they're
Yeah.
gonna say a bunch of stupid shit just to rile people up and have things not be true.
Well, look,
you
I'm
know?
pretty sure that we've riled up people just by doing this podcast.
Guarantee.
Well, sometimes I do it on purpose on Facebook, you know, just to troll people. It's fun.
Yeah, I know. You're a big troller, actually.
Well, when I get in the zone, like I like it. It's fun.
I know.
Well, that's it. You have to find the right audience for that, though.
Yeah.
Some people are very like they just don't understand what a troll is and how it works.
I was trolling you guys yesterday. It was amazing. You guys actually thought I was angry.
I think
Dude, because this is the thing, I was busy at work, so I would look at it, but I mean, I don't have time to fucking read everything. And at one point, I was just like, why is he doing this? I just stopped reading at
See,
one
there you
point.
go. As soon as you ask yourself that question, immediately what follows? He's fucking trolling. Just
I was trying to prove a point.
Actually, it reminds me of Dano, actually. Dano's a big troller sometimes, and there was one time, I don't remember what it was. Oh, I was going for breakfast or something, and I said, I want to go. Then it was like, I can't. Then I said, yes. Then I said, guys, forget it, I'm out. And then he goes off saying, why are you like this, John? And then I didn't realize he was trolling me, so I got mad at him. I'm like, dude, you never show up to things lately. Or I don't remember exactly what I said. And then after that, I thought about it 10 minutes later, or 15 minutes later, I'm like, he was trolling me. It's Dano. Of course he's going to troll me.
yeah, you do it too sometime, man.
I know. I troll people too.
Just with
Everybody
the
does.
chairs, man. When I went to Walmart to buy some chairs,
Oh, yeah.
I was very proud of my move. Like $18 a chair, like 20 with taxes. He's like, that's way too much. I was like, how much were they at Costco? You know? I was like,
Exclamation
fuck.
point, exclamation
I
point.
was happy. I was like, fuck yeah, man.
20
Two
bucks a
chairs,
chair
20
is
bucks.
like,
It's a deal, you
it's
know?
the best fucking deal you'll probably
exactly.
get
It's
for a
like,
nice
it's way too
chair.
much. Like for a second, I was like, "Fuck, do I go back? Do I get my money back?" You know? And I was like, "I think he's trolling me." And I was like, "Yes, I was alright." Cool, man.
Absolutely.
So
I also think it's easy. Well, actually, no. I was gonna say it's easier to troll online, but I think there is to an extent.
definitely.
But
Definitely.
I know some people like Dano was actually good at trolling even in person. He can make you feel guilty, and then after that, just be like, I'm just joking. Man.
Well, online there's no context. Like reading a line of text, you can interpret it in many different ways. Like picture's worth 1,000 words, but a sentence to me is like you can interpret it in a million ways. There's no inflection, there's no intonation on what you're saying. Like the same sentence can be said 3 different ways, and each meaning different things. Like the whole suck a dick thing. Like you've told a guy to suck your dick, but all in the way you say it is how it's interpreted. It's like, yo, suck my dick, or yo, suck my dick. It's the same fucking sentence, but it's said differently with inflection and intonation.
Well, you see, but that's the thing, though. Like, for the most part, it's hard to discern a person's tone and whatnot.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. For
But
sure.
I think that if you spent enough time online, and if you are, at least an adequate writer, you can convey your tone.
You can,
I think
but
so, yeah.
it's also I don't want to say studying, but learning the way someone types online. So if you're discussing someone with someone you don't know, you don't know how they would.
You know
react.
exactly how their usual discourse goes.
Yeah.
Like, you see what kind of argument they get into with who, and what sort of wording, what sort of verbiage they use.
Yeah, so if
You
it's
can
someone
tell.
completely new to you, it's foreign their way of writing. You could it's very easy to misinterpret the way someone's writing, and that's brought in with like the whole new thing of we're bringing public shaming back. Like it used to be a thing, and
it is coming back.
It's
like,
back.
Think
It's
about
back. No,
it. It is. It is.
Public shaming is like the way everyone's reacting online now. It's like, all right, they said this thing that we don't agree with. Fucking shame them, and like everyone just
And everybody
true,
just
eh?
jumps in.
But
yeah.
when it comes to online and to make sure that people understand like your emotion and how you want your message to be read, I think the emoji keyboard is great for that.
Actually,
That's
you
the
know,
other
like
thing,
sometimes
is
I
that- Why
I
do you
put
think it
like a
exists?
smiley, exactly, man. But it's great for that. Sometimes I read myself like it could be perceived in different ways, so I put a smile. So
yeah,
people
or
know,
like the
you know.
tongue sticking
Yeah.
out or
Exactly.
whatever. You know.
One of the big takeaways from that, though, that people usually have is that you want to be an asshole, but you put a smile at the end to make it seem like you're not
there
being
you
an
go,
asshole.
yeah.
Kind of
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
See, but that's the
I
other
see
thing
that
is
too.
that when you think that, you've conceived tone. So it's kind of true and it's kind of not.
That's why you have to put something random at the end.
But sometimes you are being the asshole and you realize it too. But then it's like, if you're really passionate about what you're saying and you realize you're being an asshole, putting that emoji of, let's say, I don't know, even putting an LOL, then it's like, yeah, you're softening it, but at the same time, it's like, if you can look at it another way and look at the guy that wrote that and be like, he just put that to soften it, but I know that that's exactly what he thinks.
Yeah.
You know,
Well,
that
okay,
could
so
be
one
it,
of the things that I will usually get into, like a debate or an argument with somebody online, is like, I'll never argue with someone that I don't know unless they started with me. Like, for example, a couple days ago, my buddy posted on Facebook that, you know, he come to the realization that music will never be as good as it was before. And I was just like, okay, dude, you're just getting old. You hit that point in your life where nothing new to you sounds good to you anymore.
Yeah.
It's been something that's been going on since we've had fucking music. It's nothing new.
Yeah.
no, it isn't.
Everybody's guilty of that to some degree.
Yeah.
I know
There's
I
even
am.
whole studies about why we get locked in at a certain age to the music that was like when we were growing up, right?
What is that study? Do you know? Or
I can't. I don't know.
because I have a theory, so I can't. I don't know if that's
Well,
exactly what it is.
there is a lot of theories to why that is, and a lot of it has what they're speculating is a lot of it has to do with when we're growing up, we're listening to music, everything's new to us.
Everything's new.
And and it doesn't happen for musicians where we had that same type of. There's a few that believe that the music sucks now in today's standards, but it's not across the board. And a lot of that has to do with musicians know the structures of songs. They write them, and they've known for a very long amount of time that there's nothing new under the sun. It's the same fucking music, well, just rewritten.
Yeah, there's that famous YouTube clip where they're playing four notes,
Four chords,
and it's so many different songs, and you realize like holy shit, all these songs have the same fucking chords.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter when it came out, but like,
It's all about-
he would say it's the same year too.
Yeah.
And you know, and
It's how you dress up the rest of
It's how
it.
you dress
exactly.
it up. Exactly.
It's still a pizza.
Yeah.
You still have the bread and cheese there. It's just everything else you're putting on different. There's nothing that's gonna change about that. There's only 12 fucking notes for music.
Dude, that power chords, man. I mean, I don't play guitar, but I can play power chords. I can play a lot of songs.
That's it.
You know, it's the beauty of it too.
You know
at the
3
same
chords,
way,
you know 75% of all the music.
I can play a lot of Nirvana with that, man.
There you go. But you can play all of Nirvana.
they realize that, you know, like it's simple to play, but you know what? That's another thing. I hated when I would hear musicians say, "I'm not playing that because it's too easy. My grandmother can play that." Yeah, but you know what? It might be easy to play, but the hard thing is to play that and come up with something you might say new, and that everybody's gonna like.
Yeah, definitely.
That's the hard
Yeah.
part, because anybody could just play it.
Yeah.
You might even make a song with those four chords, but is everybody gonna like that
Exactly.
song? That's
There's
that's
that.
what makes it hard.
But getting back to what I was saying about my friend's post.
Yeah.
Whose post?
His name is Jason.
Oh, okay.
He posted that, and he's the same age as me. And I said, no, dude, you're just getting old. You hit that point where music is just not sounding good to you anymore, which is weird because he's a DJ and he plays current music, and he loves a lot of current music.
That's interesting.
And so I just said, like, no, dude, it's been going on. People who were born in the 60s to the 80s will say that it died in 95. And then if you go back to people who were born in the 40s to the 60s, they'll say it died with John Lennon. And you keep going back towards all of history, they'll say that the music of their current day was better than what came after it. It's just the way people are perceiving it.
Well, it's also, I can think of myself in the metal scene. Just let's take metal.
Yeah.
Take you, okay?
Yeah.
You like, I think Bullet for My Valentine.
Oh, I love them, yeah.
I hate it, okay? But I know that when I got into Pantera and Fear Factory and Machine Head, the older guys that were 10 years older than me hated that
it,
stuff.
yeah.
They said, what the fuck is this garbage? I remember them bitching on Typo Negative, and I'm like, but why? Typo Negative is good. You know, and I think what it is, it's like you get into the music of your era,
yeah.
and then you start exploring backwards. So that's why you
Yeah.
can like previous stuff, but you might not like a band that came out right now today.
Well, you see, I'm different in that
might
aspect.
want-
I like a lot of new music, and I don't think it's worse than it's ever been in
I get
in
it.
history.
But I think you you might like it because me too. Like, think me, I like Hailstorm for whatever reason. I know everybody here hates him, but
I don't.
I just don't care
Hailstorm
for
or
them.
Hailstorm.
Yeah. Hailstorm.
Hailstorm.
Yeah.
Not
I've never
Hailstorm.
even heard of them.
Yeah, I mean,
Hailstorm, it's a chick. Actually, I think even Hailstorm has a chick singer.
No, Hailstorm's the pirate band.
The power band. Okay, well, Hailstorm is with a chick singer. It's more on the hard rock, I guess, than metal. But I like it. I know it's new, but I'll never be able to say, "Oh, this is my favorite band."
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I like it. I like the 3 albums that are studio albums. I really like them, but it's like I don't like it as much as say,
because
I don't know,
okay,
Machine Head or something.
Without going off on a
Pantera.
tangent and diverging too
Yeah.
far from what I'm trying
Well,
to
yeah,
get
way
at.
far from
I get it. I was actually going somewhere.
Those
yeah, me
music,
neither. I was, yeah.
that like music you listen to when you were young is locked into a certain period of your time.
Oh, yeah,
Like,
that's for
you're
sure, man.
experiencing
I
a
was
lot of new things at the same time. It defines an era in your life, whereas music that you're listening to today, you're basically defined already. That's why a lot of things is when you hit 30,
There's nothing else.
there's
Yeah.
nothing else. Like
You're-
you're not defining a period in your life when you're learning everything.
Well, that's another thing is you also have more. You have different priorities, so you're not even going to listen to it as much as you would have, when you were
You're not
younger.
gonna have a memory of driving like when you're 80. Is like, man, I used to drive around and listen to this. Like when you're 30 compared to when you were like 16 and actually driving for the first time.
Of course, man. I only listen to music I used to listen to like 10, 15, 20 years ago now, man. It's hard to get into a new album, man.
So for going back to what I was saying for my friend, I told him that I was like, it's been going on for generations. I'm like, but don't you love the new Kendrick Lamar album? He's like, and then he responded by saying something along the lines of, what did he say again? Well, he said, yeah, he loves the new Kendrick, but he's like, okay. He's like, I just feel I like new music today too. I just feel there's a huge percentage of shit compared to all the good stuff. And then I responded with, dude, nobody talks about the huge percentage of shit from the 80s because they only talk about the good albums. You talk any era, there's a huge percentage of shit that came out.
I see it as a sort of, it's like going through the motions.
Yeah.
You know, like you have there's like you said, there's when you come of age and you start discovering the new music and you start associating that new music with experiences in life and things like that, and it really speaks to you. You know, but at the same time, when you've lived in that world long enough, things stagnate. You know, so in terms of music, like new music not being good, that's not true. What is true is that what you like stagnates because you only like a particular type of thing.
100%.
Like I've opened up a lot because I had to actually reflect on this because like I was a musician and everything. I stopped playing guitar and all that, but like I used to like be on stage, play with my friends, write music, the whole thing. Being a musician helps you to appreciate other styles of music, I think. And the other thing is that when you could admit to yourself that when you're out there, like let's say I look like you, right?
Yeah.
Like back in the day, fucking jean jackets, chains, everything, the whole fucking kid and caboodle. I would
Kid and
find
caboodle. I like that.
I'm 32. I don't know. So
It's all good.
you come to the realization that there are times where you listen to that music that you claim to hate, and you tap your foot and you bob your head and you remember the lyrics. And as soon as you could admit to yourself that you liked what you listened to, everything changes.
That's true.
So,
But I don't want to drag on this topic, but at the end of the day, is it like when I think of music, I think of a period, I think of an image.
I think that's everybody. Auditory.
Yeah, exactly.
color.
memories.
Like exactly a color. Like 9 Inch Nails for me, like is a perfect example, man. I like 9 Inch Nails of what they were when I liked them. If I listen to them today, like the new stuff, I don't follow them as much because I don't think it's as good because I think of them as an image. So when I think
and they evolved.
they evolved, but I didn't go that way as well. Even if I like more pop music now, 9 Inch Nails are more pop now. But if I listen to 9 Inch Nails, it's not what they do today. It's what they used to do now.
Going back to the old
I
stuff.
think the last album I actually like. I think it's Animatronics by Covenant. Like the really last album I really got into. It's like then like everything in 2000. I can't say I like, but I think the more stuff the more experience you get. You get into it like you're just comparing stuff. If there's a new band comes out, it's good. It kind of sounds like this band. I'm listening to that band. Like is it that as well, man? Do you stick to just? There's so much to like.
There are some bands that did that for me too. Lazarus AD, Silosis. So these bands that try to capture the old sound, it grew on me for a bit. But then these bands don't have the magic touch.
You always go back
Lasting
to what they
power.
were kind of compared to, because that was for you, that was like the source of your music joy,
It's like I like thrash metal, and I like all those thrash bands. I got into Warbringer for a while, but it's like when I want to listen to thrash, they're not the first band that pops in my head, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, yeah, you have your go-to bands.
No,
and
I
stuff,
get it, but at the same time, it's like I think because also thrash metal, I think everything's been done to the point
You
where
really
it's like,
can't write a
you
new
can't write
thrash
anything
song.
new.
That's what I'm saying, you
All the
always-
best riffs were written.
Yeah, you always
that's the
ended up
stagnation.
comparing
That's
it
where
to
it is.
something else. That's what I'm saying, man. You know?
We're comparing it to something else. Okay, so
Yeah.
like, for this decade, I think pop music is much better this decade than it was the last decade, and I think pop music is
Probably.
being written much better now than at some points in any time in history. You have like Bruno Mars, like Lady Gaga, like literally pick any like Taylor Swift. I like all of that shit. I think it's awesome. And
I fucking love Bruno Mars. That guy's awesome.
And for people to keep saying that music's just it's sounding the same, it's more like with fucking vinyl. Like I know I'm gonna get so much backlash for this, but I really don't like listening to shit on vinyl unless it was done for vinyl in the 80s.
Same here, man.
Releasing albums now when you're recording it digitally and then putting it on vinyl, it doesn't sound fun.
No,
not
but
any
there are
kind of
some bands that take that
remasters.
into consideration and they actually do master
Yeah.
for vinyl, which is nice.
Yeah.
That is cool, but
But not many.
not many.
Yeah.
It's few and far between. But it's like everyone's just jumping on that bandwagon of it was old. It sounds better, and I almost see like a lot of pretentiousness with people like who will agree with that music was better before from the past than it is current day, which is fucking. As a musician, as someone who listens to a lot of different music, I completely fucking agree.
Yeah, me
100%.
too, man.
I think right now with metal, I think it is very stagnant. I think it's hit that period. The renaissance of it is over.
Yeah.
But for pop, I think it's a brand new renaissance. For rap, it's coming back up from where it used to be.
I
Yes,
agree.
you have a lot of the shit there too that's famous, but every era has it.
That's something I want-
These are based on memories, man. Because like a coworker of mine, his name is Jack. He likes metal, and he comes to me. So I was, oh man, this band's going to Montreal. I have no idea who that band is, but he's so fucking excited. And I got to talk to him about band I'm excited about to come to Montreal. I was like, but for me, these bands are like metal, and the band is listening to them. I don't know what they are, but to me, metal, it's that, you know, like it's just. I think when it comes to music, if it's good, it's better, it's worse, it's based on memory. My memory is always going to be the best music. Somebody else's memory is going to be their best.
it's
music, you know what I'm
subjective.
saying? At the end of the day, I think
That
guitar player, bass player, drum players, I mean, they're probably as good, you know, but it's just.
But that's the
what
thing. The subjectivity versus objectivity
Yeah,
discussion
exactly.
there, like that is subjectivity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like what you like is
Yeah,
subjective.
yeah.
That's
you,
it.
you can be
That's it.
objective. I don't
But-
think you could really be objective with.
So I
this
think you
kind
can. Like to go back to my example about how when you're a fucking hardcore metalhead, but then you find yourself bobbing your head to the fucking.
Oh
pop.
yeah, no, but that's not what I meant.
That's-
I meant like you and I could like two bands that might be similar, but you might like one more than the other, and I like the other one more.
Yeah,
and,
and
it's
that
like,
would be
at,
for
at that
whatever
point,
reason.
That's where come with subject.
that's where it becomes more.
That's the
subjective.
subjectivity of it.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
what you take away of it would be the subjective
Just
part.
something that you were saying about there's a lot of shit now, but you know when you listen to the old bands, there was shit you just don't hear about it,
Yeah.
and that's very true because I remember listening to Sirius XM, the hair metal station. I don't remember
Hair
what it's
Nation.
called.
I
Hair
always-
Nation.
I
we were
always
just
listen to
listening to it on the
There's
ride.
a bunch of bands. There's a bunch of bands that I had never heard of before that were played on this. I'm like, maybe it's because this band probably is their only song and probably didn't even get very far. So that was probably one of the shit.
Well, they compare going with that specifically. That's a good example for like music that people unanimously agree was terrible. It's like glam metal. I fucking love glam. I was in a glam band. I was like a glam kid for real, and everyone fucking knows Pour Some Sugar on Me, even though I don't really consider Def Leppard a glam band. Everyone knows Talk Dirty to Me. You know Motley Crue. For the first part of Guns N' Roses, like first 6 months, they were a glam band too.
Well,
Me and Armin had this argument.
Def Leppard originally
We could
were an
definitely make an argument,
NWOBHM
but I would
band.
also
Yes,
agree.
exactly.
But anyway.
It became
Yeah.
more of a pop rock band. Everyone
Yeah.
knows Bon Jovi. You all know the songs. You all fucking sing them. That is what defined glam metal. What everyone talks about is shit. Is the rest of the bands that came in trying to make it big,
Nitro.
looking like that.
Yeah.
Nitro is a great example.
I think it's the same thing with new metal. Like everybody knows Korn, everybody knows Deftones, but how many of those other bands like Taproot and
But actually, I know some people who actually really love Taproot. Like,
Yeah,
they were one of the
fun.
undersung.
I'm trying to think.
but
I'm trying to
good
think of
bands,
other
you know?
bands that like were from that genre or era. That where are they now? And no
Like
one
Power
remembers.
Man
them.
3000 or something, you know?
Maybe.
Well, they were
that.
pretty famous. How about
For a little
Nemec?
while, but not
Reveille?
for long, man.
well, you
ever heard of
can
Nemec?
pick.
Oh,
I've heard
yeah,
of Nemec.
I
You
heard
can
of
really
Nemec.
They're
pick
very-
any genre will have
yeah.
that.
Incubus. That was a band that was in the new metal era. Like they
Yeah, but
they
got
drove
big.
they
They're still on the radio.
They drove on that wave of Korn. Like they were kind of similar, but then after they just went into something.
But any genre that gets
different,
gets very popular mainstream wise has that. So like ska was big with Sublime and No Doubt, but literally nobody else. And who's around that you know about is like No Doubt. Gwen Stefani shifted over to pop.
No
and
Doubt's
kept
not. It's ska.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Well, the early stuff, I would say.
Well, yeah,
apparently the
stuff-
band reformed, no?
Yeah, they reformed and they was
I don't
still
know. For me,
ska.
ska. There's a lot.
They had that too.
Did
Yeah,
they?
a little bit,
I don't know, man.
But yeah, they were pretty musically diverse.
I don't know.
They-
Me, when
they-
I
they
think
shifted,
of
but-
New Doubt, No Doubt, it's I'm Just a Girl and Spiderweb.
Spiderwebs is a ska song.
Is it?
Oh yeah, there's horns in there and everything. It's a complete
Okay,
ska.
I don't.
So-
for me, ska was.
But they were the progenitors. They were one of the first
Catch
bands that
22.
pioneered
Yeah,
that.
exactly.
Yeah.
For me, that's ska.
So like you have those things that where you have like people who got really famous, and then other bands that came up, but there's only a fraction of them that stayed relevant.
Yeah.
The only ones that there's obviously some different things like rock became very very popular over many generations, and rap, which is having like I guess a renewed renaissance for that too.
A resurgence.
A resurgence. So pick
La
any genre, you have
renouvelation.
that. But with any genre, there's 99% more shit than there is good stuff.
Yeah,
it's
for
just
sure,
the
man.
way it is. There's
Yeah,
a lot of
it's
people
always like
doing
that.
it.
Now,
Now.
how did we get to this topic when
We were
talking
just
about
talking, man.
We're talking
about
about
context.
shit talking and context.
Context online.
Right.
So, but I was going with the like. I was trying to tell him that no, you're just not understanding that you got old, and like as a musician, I was telling him not
Right.
to be an asshole.
Yeah, that's it.
Also,
And then he probably took it as like, what the fuck is the matter with you?
don't
kind
you
of thing.
find a lot of social justice warriors? I feel like a lot of times they're spewing out knowledge, but it's basically stuff they read somewhere, and they're just spewing it out. It's almost like, hey, look at me, I'm intelligent.
Oh, but sometimes it's just the cover, man. You know, like it's just the book cover. Tell them to explain. They have no shit. They don't know.
Well, no,
Yeah.
because they bring
Oh, no,
up
it's like this,
pseudoscience.
man.
It's like file earthers will bring up like that's not real science. That's not real. No, what you're saying is not real science, and nothing that I say, I can't prove you wrong. Everything that I say, you just say is a lie.
The thing about all of that shit is that it's in the name, social. If you're talking about anything in social quote unquote
Right.
sciences, you're not talking about science.
No, you're not.
Everything that you're talking about is somebody's philosophy, not a theory, not a hypothesis. It's just somebody's philosophy.
There's nothing concrete,
But-
like we know
Absolutely
this
nothing.
is solid.
Like,
Guys,
of all
like
of-
at the end of the day, like I mean, if I talk about science, I'm fucking no scientist, but I mean, I'm gonna talk about shit I heard that I want to talk about, right?
But you know what? Even if you
Best
don't know,
difference
if
of
you're not a scientist or if you're not an expert or whatever, that doesn't matter.
I'm an expert.
Even
At some things.
at whatever it might be. And even then, if those things that you're an expert at, you might talk about them and be wrong. The
Ah,
point
for
is,
sure,
is
man.
that you need to know the truth of the matter.
Yeah.
You don't need to be a scientist to be able to explain something coherently.
course.
Absolutely not. And that's the problem with these people, is that they take what they say as science. But if you ask them to explain it, you have five people in front of you and you ask them one question, they're gonna have five different answers for the same thing. You ask a scientist a question about what is water made of, all of them are gonna tell you the same thing, and that's the difference.
That's
it.
what science
That's
is.
it. Yeah, that's
And
it,
the people that spew this shit out as though like, how could you not know this? Like, I don't know this because I don't spend my time in a niche classroom where some asshole is
exactly.
saying a bunch of horse shit that is unproven.
I can tell you about it, but I don't know.
And
about
speaking
it,
of
you know?
classrooms, that was another thing we were talking about earlier. How there is there was some universities that they're having a hard time teaching critical thinking because people are getting offended. So again, we're returning back to that old topic.
To that effect, I agree. But I think even when they were able to teach critical thinking, nobody understood the concept because people of all ages cannot critically think.
No, but
correctly.
no, I get that, but like they're afraid to teach it now because they're
I
going to get
agree.
into trouble. And like there was that incident about apparently, so the guy was showing some sort of video. Somebody got offended because one of them said it was disgusting, and in the video, it was basically guys talking. I think it was talking about homosexuality or something.
Okay.
They weren't saying that they thought it was wrong. They understood that it's fine. Two people like this, but it's like me saying, well, I don't get turned on by it. Does that mean it's wrong? No, it's not. It's fine.
Yeah.
Those guys like each other. They want to fuck.
I think
whatever.
the term we're looking
But
for is not necessarily critical thinking, but nuanced thinking.
I guess nuanced thinking. But
Yeah.
either way, this is just one little example. But because of that, even though the teacher was actually someone that actually was an advocate for gay rights, He was actually...
That doesn't matter. He's a phony.
That's pretty much what happened. And the student that was offended went to the president of the school, and basically then he got into hot water, and he tried to talk to this student and saying, look, this was... I think maybe you might have misunderstood the video. And so he explained it. He's like, the guy is
misunderstand? I'm a special snowflake. What the fuck are you talking about? Yes. I can't be wrong.
So
this class is wrong.
This is what sorry.
Well, sorry. So and the theory behind why students right now, or like say younger adults, are feeling this way is they have this theory, or at least one of the theories is that for the longest time, kids would play outside, let's say, or, they would grow up, they'd get into a fight. They would learn how to defend themselves. They would learn how to, you get hurt, when you fall on the floor. So, okay, I'm not going to do that again. Let's say I'm not going to, basically you learn life stuff. And then around the same period of time, this is like 70s and 80s, there was the advent of cable. So now things was like thrown all the time on TV, and they showed that, this kid got abducted by a stranger or whatever. So parents started panicking. I understand why. They were always hearing about it on TV when it was probably just as much before. It's just that now they're hearing about it, right?
Exactly that.
And as a result, then they said, well, now we can't leave our kids unsupervised. So what happened is then, something happens with you at school or whatever, then the parent is like, I'm going to go talk to that kid now, but tell your kid to defend himself or something. Like, basically let him live.
Yeah. Exactly.
So then by the time they got to, late teens, where now they're in a setting where the teacher might have said something that they don't like, they don't know how to react. They don't defend their point and say why they don't like it or whatever. So instead they go complain to the president. It's almost like, I'm going to go complain on my mom kind of thing.
There's like people now, like when they have that little, when you go in the street and do a manifestation, they have that so easy now.
Protest for your animals.
Yeah, protest, like same thing at school. Like now they teach people, like they don't even teach. It's like, you're always a winner.
Well, there's
what is that going to be in 20
But there's even
years,
some
man?
classes that are like that's specifically aimed to make activists of kids.
Well, I think kids need to understand defeats. I've learned from many people that right now, if you play a game at school, everybody wins.
Yeah, everybody gets a trophy.
Fuck that.
That was
man.
like the first step, I think.
That doesn't work.
That
I'm not blaming kids for that. I'm blaming the parents.
Oh, we're not blaming the
kids.
It's not their fault.
Absolutely
It's not
the
their
parents'
fault.
But you see, a
Definitely
lot of the parents from that generation will blame kids. Well, they're used to always winning, but
No,
that's
it's
your
their fault.
fucking
Yeah,
fault.
exactly. Yeah,
Like when
man.
I was a kid, I didn't have that consolation
For
prize.
sure,
I learned
man.
to
Kids
lose.
don't enact policy.
But because
Adults
think
do.
about this, because now this is what they're saying. Like apparently, there's a lot of bosses are having, or older management are having a hard time dealing with, let's say, a 20-year-old now that comes into the workforce, because they're so used to, well, if I fail, it's okay. But what they're having a hard time is like, now, well, you fail, you get fired. Let's say, if you're not doing your job right. Yeah, okay, we'll give you chances.
Even that's changed.
Yeah, well, but I know you got to go through written warnings, all this kind of stuff.
Even more than that, there's depending on the company you work for, there are some companies that have a bottom line. They're like, look, you can't cut it, fuck off.
Yeah, no, I get it, but this is where the problem is coming, and they're like, they're bitching. But
imagine these kids are always used to win. That's going to be hard to handle.
That's the problem. It's like, if you fail at work, you're going to get fired. Like, you cannot put out a shitty product.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, you know what I mean? Like,
take the Jackson 5 for an example, man. I watched the history not too long ago, and I cannot tell exactly the year, whatever. But when they were the Jackson 5, the beginning, it was like a local event when they were playing, and they were second place. And the second place was winning a color TV. And back in the day, a color TV was like the fucking shit. Yeah. But you know what? Like the father, you say, you know what? We're not going to take that TV. We didn't win. We're not bringing anything home. So they left like that tournament without anything. Because to the father, is say, you win, you win. If you're not first place, you're a loser. And look what that took them. You know what I'm saying? Like,
well, there's that, but it could also be said that their dad was a fucking...
That was a little bit to the extreme.
It was a bit of an extreme.
That was the extreme, but I mean...
The fundamental lesson he's trying to teach is a good one. Just the way he went about it was...
you win or you don't win, you didn't win first place. Well, that color TV that you will enjoy, you're not going to get it. Next time, be first.
Like, he's trying to teach them, to be the absolute
What's
best.
better now? Work better to be first, or hey, you're last. Hey,
now it doesn't matter. There's no first and there is no last.
exactly.
I mean, there still is indeed, but not in observation.
Exactly.
Right.
It's gotten to a point where it's spilled out into so many different avenues of life that you can smell it almost. Like you know what kind of person is saying what kind of thing in any given situation.
Yeah.
The people who are willing to look at themselves humbly and say, I fucked up, and just learn from it and grow, you come across them, but like it's either hard to tell or they keep to themselves sort of thing. Because to have that kind of an opinion, to have that kind of disposition these days is unfashionable.
Actually, it's true. Yeah.
Because of that that mentality.
It could be a bitch sometimes, and when it comes like friendship, relationship, or even work, you know, when I'm wrong, I'm gonna say it. You know, like that was me. Like I'll apologize. Like I'll work and I'll make it better.
Stand corrected.
Exactly. You know, but people sometimes are gonna hide that truth because they're scared of the repercussion. You know, like I'm the first guy. Like if I forgot to do something, I'm just gonna say it. Like I forgot, I'm gonna do it now. You know, like some people are gonna try. Oh yeah, but you know there was this, there was that, I didn't do it.
Yeah.
But you know, like, but sometimes being 100% honest,
And
sometimes
saying, yeah, I fucked up.
sometimes the result of this could be bad. You know, so I think that's
true.
why sometimes people's gonna lie. Sometimes
It's
just try to work
really
around it,
Depends
you
on the
know?
situation.
Oh, for sure. But I mean,
and how excited you are at that
Exactly.
moment. Like if you're taking the conversation more laid back, I think you have a better chance of being more reflective.
oh, for sure.
You
Like
know?
me, like at work, like I mean, I'm usually like I'm up to date and I do my shit. But let's say like I forget something and my boss he calls me and he asks me for follow up. Oh yeah, what about this? I go, oh, you know what, like I didn't think about this because I was doing this and that, but I gotta work on this now. You know, like I'm not gonna say, oh yeah, but I'm gonna say I forgot about it. Like that's the plan now, you know. But if it's never gonna be bad enough because I think I'm a good worker and I know what I have to do. But to be honest, sometimes could be scary to people because I mean, if I say the truth, I forgot to do something.
It looks bad.
Oh yeah, it looks bad, and they're gonna be scared what's gonna happen.
Yeah, but you know what? It as long as that doesn't happen often.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh yeah.
You know, oh, for sure. But they say, you know, like in French, une erreur partagée est une erreur oubliée, right? So it's the same thing. If you step forward and say like you did a mistake,
That's where it ends.
exactly. Usually it's like I know, or let's move forward. You know, you can't take control of the situation even if you're wrong. You know?
You build yourself a little bit of confidence, even just to say.
Yeah.
You look like you want to say something.
No, I'm
Oh,
listening.
okay. Because every time I looked at you, I don't know why, I felt like Vin wants to say something.
No,
okay.
I'm good.
Oh,
I'll
there's-
interject.
I mean, there's lots to riff on this for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, to go back to like the sort of, I was gonna say childish, but it's not really childish. It's just a matter of
The
course.
way shit is.
It's like like I was saying earlier, like the whole Marxism thing and the whole like a lot of kids believe in that, you know, and it's very
true.
easy to get kids to believe in that because they haven't lived life.
Marxism
and like and well, Marxism being like the philosophy of Karl Marx, but to be more specific, communism and socialism, but as a doctrine, not as just an idea. You know, it's more like how do we apply this to life? And a lot of kids are taken in by that because you're a kid. You haven't learned the value of failure. You know, you and especially in this day and age where everybody thinks that their kids are super special. You mix these things together and you've got yourself a big smorgasbord of problems. Like, as a kid, you're obviously going to fall into socialism because it takes the blame away from you.
Yeah.
The world is what fucked you over. The authority that resides over the country fucked you over. Your employer fucked you over. Everybody's fucking you over.
That makes sense because we were saying before, like you can continue this point in a sec. The way we were saying how you said it, like everybody loses, but it's okay. Everybody's a winner. Even though you guys lost, everybody's a winner, and that's kind of what socialism is, right?
Yeah.
Like everybody should be equal. Well, the guy that's you know like the guy is lazy, but he can still get money from the government. You know what I mean? Like that kind of thing. You know, like
that's like the direct criticism towards like a situation, but also at the same time is there. If everybody is told, you know, we're all going to be equal, and they do it, but everybody's equally poor or equally disenfranchised, what does that really give you? You're like, are
Nothing.
you really going to be happy?
Yeah.
Well, all you need to do is look to every country that's ever tried, and you'll see that the answer is no. So, kids don't have a concept. Kids don't have perspective. You know, they're young. We're relatively young. We lack perspective. But to say that the difference between us and them is massive. I can look at a situation like that and say, okay, looking back on history, what you're saying sounds nice, but in practice is terrible.
I have that same mentality for the follow your dreams.
Oh yeah, no, I hate that. That's
my mother, my parents, especially my mother, always said like, you can try to follow your dreams, but always make sure you have a backup plan and focus on that too. Because my mother was always instilling like you're gonna want to have a job. You're gonna want like if you can do it, that's awesome. Like definitely play guitar and write music if you can, but definitely don't lay everything on the line for that. Yeah. Which is exactly what opposite of what I did. Not because of rebelling against my parents, but because of media when I was growing up. It's like follow your dreams, do what you like, do what you love, do what you love, do what you love. But fuck that. That's like one of the dumbest things I ever did in my life was listen to that instead of heed the warning of my parents were saying is like don't just rely on that. Because I sunk everything into wanting to play music at the worst time in the world, the history of music, to want to be a musician. And now I'm sure a lot of people are like, well, what do you mean? I would love to just be able to like make money and do what I love.
What if would you still say the same thing had you made it?
Yes, because playing music is a fucking job. It's still a job.
But that's the thing, though. You get to a point, like we hear a story of people that made it, but sometimes they kind of forget to say, I'm one of a million.
People don't realize that. That is the key factor. Is that yes, anybody could do it, but the thing is that you're not.
There is when they say right time, right place. That is a huge factor.
Yes. It was right time, right place for what I was able to do. I was just smart on how to deal with it. And in the end, even being smart about that was still incredibly stupid.
But when it comes to music, like, I mean, you still did most, you know what I'm saying?
I did more than a lot of other people did.
That's what I'm saying,
The reason I'm looking back on it now, and it's not rose-colored shades, it was, I was fucking dumb. I was fucking really stupid. I sunk a lot of money into wanting to play music professionally and everything. Yeah. For what? It made me... it gave me anxiety. I was really upset with everything. I was just losing money. I couldn't do anything with a career that like every job I had, I didn't even care about because I just wanted to play fucking music. Yeah. So I shifted from the mentality of you should be doing what you love as your job to fuck no, do a job that's gonna keep you alive and support you and put your passion into that. Because if you only have passion for one thing, you're fucking dead. Yeah.
That's the best case scenario, that's for sure.
And plus, how many people can feasibly do what they love? There's just not enough out there. If you're not the kind of person who's going to create that situation for yourself, which is like 50% of people, probably more. You're not going to get it.
The things that people love aren't work. They're not jobs. They're not. They're creative things. And yes, I am a creative person. I like creating, but. And yes, I do believe everyone who does that, if you want to be able to use it for your advantage, like listen to music, you should be fucking paying for it. But not everyone in the world can be a fucking painter or a musician or a builder or whatever, because then there's no one to buy that because everyone else is it's
doing it.
Yeah. You have too many people making it. What's the law of supply and demand? If you have too much of one thing, it devalues it. Yeah.
And it's probably like one of the few things in economics that stands true, And that's the other thing is that the economics is being a part of about this whole the social strata, like the social academia and things like that. That's probably the only subject that has some form of scientific credibility to it.
And the other thing you said, how like, I think that's another thing. Okay, when you're younger, you haven't had enough life experience, so you think that everybody the equal thing, like the Marxism, like you're saying. Now, it might be more popular nowadays with today's youth than it was before. However, everybody in general, when they're younger, tend to lean more on the left. Yeah. And as you get older, you start leaning more and more to the right.
The left and the right dynamics change as well over time.
That's true.
Also happened.
Yeah. That also happens. But now, I think right now there's also a big problem with right and left is that it's gone to the point where it's like, it doesn't matter which side you're on, now it's bad. And I think part of it is because on the right side you have a handful of people that, let's say, they're the racists, they're the rednecks, they're the whatever on the right. So they get a bad image from the guys on the left. But meanwhile, there's a handful of ones on the left that are being so retarded and so elitist that it just pisses the people on the right off. And so then anybody that considers themselves a right or a left or conservative or liberal, now it's like, well,
the problem I have
it's
with
too much of a divide. That's what I'm
the
trying to say.
problem I have with that is it's always been left or right. You have centrists and you don't have that far extreme. Yeah. Right? Yeah. But everyone's defining themselves as that, and they don't see themselves as that. But to me, it was just like left and right is how policy is. That it's how you govern. Why is it such an angry thing when you consider when you see someone else? I'm like, If I'm left and he's right, oh, he's the enemy. It's just a different policy. It's not.
view.
It's not like they're the end of the world type of thing. You know?
I think it's because of honestly, it sounds simplistic, but I think it's the end result of living in a secular, godless society. You know.
I don't know, man. At the end of the day, is it really a choice?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think it is because
you can clearly say that I lean to the left, but that's not my choice. It's just
well,
my body, you know?
a lot of it is not. I agree. No, he's right.
he's fucking around.
No. Maybe he is, but he is actually right because people are predisposed to certain things.
I agree.
Exactly.
You can change that if you give yourself a
My
lot
dick
of
was a
inward-
metaphor here. You know what I'm saying?
There you go.
But,
and you put it in.
I'm actually I'm I guess a centrist.
Yeah,
what they're
well,
called.
you lean different ways depending on what you're talking about.
Yeah,
It's
and
not
that's
like
that's
absolute.
exactly what I was gonna say. That's what I was gonna say. No, but some people are absolute on this
Because
topic.
they think of it as just like if you're the other side, you're the bad guy. When Obama and McCain were running for president, they both agreed. It's like we just disagree on policy. The other guy isn't a bad guy. They both said
Of
this.
course
That's
that.
the way it's supposed to. You disagree on a policy,
And-
not that the other person is inherently a bad person.
Yeah.
And you know what? I'm actually a believer that I think as a country, it's gotta shift back and forth because on one end, you want some of the social programs, you want to do stuff for the people, but then you can't stay on that side for too long because then economically, which is usually where the right side and conservative side is, starts to suffer. So then you shift towards that side. But then you can't stay there too long because you have to go back. Yeah, you have.
Yeah.
So I think you have to switch back and forth. And I find that whenever there's a government that stays in power for too long, it doesn't matter if it's a certain person. Or I just mean a certain type of government. Then it becomes a problem.
Yeah.
We stagnate.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons why Canadian politics is so weird to me is because we kind of don't follow that paradigm. Like, because we can think about Chrétien. How long was he in office? You know, how many problems?
4 terms?
I don't know.
I don't remember how many terms.
I don't
but it
remember
was a lot.
exactly. I don't think it's even a matter of terms. It's just how many years he was in office. I don't remember, but
It
I
might
know
have
that
been
it was longer than
Something was long. I think it was 16. I think
it was. It
I don't
was
know.
over
time.
10
It
years,
was over. Yeah.
something like that.
Well,
We'll say
Sorry
3,
for not
12
knowing.
years.
No,
12 years, 3 terms.
that's another thing, and that's even like a thing in Quebec. In Quebec, we tend to always be on the left, and we've been on the left.
We don't have a conservative. we don't have a right side.
I don't know
No, but
about
that's
that.
just our society, and I think that's hurting a bit our business side because we're too much, for the people, and we've been. No matter whatever government's been in power, we've been
This
left.
It's a
We've been
touchy
left.
it's a
Doesn't
touchy
matter who's
subject.
there.
I don't think that has our business side has
Since
anything
the
to do with
60s or 70s.
Okay, but it's a touchy subject. But I'm gonna touch on it. But I don't think it has anything to do this time with left or right. We only have a liberal or a separatist party. And the separatist party, when they were in power, enacted the French laws that you have to do everything in French. I understand where they're coming from, but that does hurt the business more than anything else because we were the biggest city in Canada for business. And as soon as they enacted that law, they all moved away. This wasn't a liberal or a conservative thing. It was a separatist thing.
You could twist it and say
Yeah.
nationalism is on the right, which is not necessarily true.
but I'm not.
But that's
it's not-
really
it's not-
looking
Because even the
past it.
separatist party was still left.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
But you know what? Even in that regard, the left versus right paradigm in Quebec is a strange topic because I don't think that like let's say the Parti Québécois was not even centrist. They were very incoherent in the way they thought. It was more like
I think more the recent incarnation. I think if you go back like in the previous years, they might have been more coherent. I just
Probably.
think the last
It depends
one,
on
I don't know.
who's the
No, that's-
leader
well,
of it
that's it,
because
obviously.
they're a separatist for a reason. They want to make Quebec a country. So their leaning side isn't really a factor in what made them the leader of the party. They could be you could be a conservative and be the leader of that bloc party or the separatist party, but you can also be a liberal and be a separatist.
it's really a matter.
Yeah.
It's a very singular notion.
Exactly.
And that's
So-
why it's strange because like policy wise, yes, it is very left leaning on both for basically any party. Like we actually have like 4 parties now in Quebec, but like some of them are just not worth talking about really because they just don't have the political pull. But they all tend to have basically the same policies, just that some of them have one idea towards a particular
A
subject.
certain ideology.
And the difference, like, you probably will get the same policy enacted between the separatists and the Liberal Party.
Hear
It's
it,
just
yeah.
that one is more leaning towards protecting French and enforcing it.
Yeah.
That's definitely the agenda of like the Separatist Party. It's when Pauline Marois was in power, it was removing money from like hospitals and stuff and putting it into the language police. That it's not like an argument. It's fact. That's what happened.
It is what happened.
And it's a basis on that. It was you wanted to make French bigger than you want to expand it. You wanted to make sure that it was the language of the province. I understand where you're coming from, but that doesn't help either the social or the business side of the province. Like, look, if you look at it, we have stagnated since the 70s. We lost a lot of business. They all went to Toronto. The only thing that's flourishing here is video games, but there's a government subsidy from the government of Quebec to bring them in.
Yep. And that's literally the only reason why they're here, the subsidy. And that's compounding on the entire problem, is that we try to attract businesses by giving them tax breaks and things like that. But the reason why we have to give them tax breaks to attract them here is because it's just not economically feasible because of how much we're taxed.
Right.
And there's the amount of extra money that people need to spend just for branding because they need to make everything French.
Right.
So it's this vicious circle that doesn't even eat itself. It's just there.
But I
rotating.
mean, is the French language the issue here? I mean, what's the?
I'm not saying that. I'm not.
No,
the
it's
French
the
language isn't
mentality
the issue.
behind protecting
Yeah.
the language that's the
So-
issue.
Well, is that really an issue? I mean,
Of course,
I
it
don't.
is.
Well, I don't
Why?
find it's in danger right now, though.
You-
I don't
okay,
know. Okay, you're a francophone.
You're francophone.
What do you-
But who do you primarily hang out with? Who do you speak? Your phone is in English.
dude, like I totally understand, man. If I buy IKEA, I'm gonna follow the English instruction because the French instruction it's not readable. But at the end of the day, like, are we a French nation or English nation? Like, what are we? You know,
the
like,
ideal.
oh,
I'm sure you know this, but
how do you maintain an image? You know, I mean,
I say well, the way I see it is we're a French nation, and
Well, are we a
I'm
nation?
gonna
This
say
is
a
Quebec.
French province. Okay, we're a French
It
province.
is
but
a
I
bit-
said nation, but you
Yeah.
guys know what I mean.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
I
no,
say
but nation it's a people.
No,
or
the
a-
word means something.
that's how I
It's
see
different
things,
people.
you know?
it's
It
good.
means-
You need to be specific
Yeah.
about this.
Right. Okay.
So to say,
It,
I agree
there's no
that-
question that Quebec is not French. You just walk. Okay,
It's
if
French.
you were a tourist, okay, because we're a bit blind to this. Yeah, we speak both languages, but we're blind to this. But pretend you were someone, let's say from the States, that comes here. Yeah, he could get around in downtown Montreal.
but nowhere else.
No, but you can get around. But just the same way I got around in Germany, I spoke English to things, but the signs were all in fucking German.
Yeah.
There was no English sign, so it's the same thing here. An American comes here, he's gonna tell, yeah, this is a
Well,
French
yeah,
city.
yeah, yeah.
Even though there might be some English lettering here, so some businesses might actually put the smaller writing in French in English. They're still gonna know. There's no way they're gonna say,
But
yeah,
that's
Montreal's English.
That's
They're not gonna say
directly
that.
a result of René Lévesque and
but
knocking
that's
the
fine.
French
But what's
law.
Fine.
wrong about it?
There's
though?
nothing.
Like, what's
I don't
wrong
think
with
there's
it?
wrong with that.
anything wrong
I
with
don't think
that.
there's anything wrong with
Yeah.
that.
It's just the fact that when you put these things into practice and you legislate, problems arise. You can't foresee them because you're
Yeah.
so sure that you're right. But when it happens, you need to be able to acknowledge it.
So
Well, of course, like we're surrounded by like the English language, right?
Yeah.
The rest of Canada's English. The fucking United States, it's English. I mean,
But I wanted to bring that up as an example in terms of
okay.
the protection of a language and things like that. In the United States, there are a fuck ton of Spanish speakers everywhere.
yeah.
And there are absolutely no laws protecting English. And Spanish flourishes, English flourishes.
Oh, yeah, dude.
Any language that anyone speaks in a particular borough or community or whatever flourishes and maintains itself.
But
I
is it
remember
because we're so
Florida.
much a smaller like population of French? Like, I mean, if we don't protect it, we're just gonna lose it.
No,
I
it's
think-
all relative.
I think
I'm just asking
I
a
understand
question,
where
like,
it's
is it-
coming
could
from
that be
because in
it,
the,
you know?
in the 60s and 70s everything was turning English in Montreal. Okay, but Montreal is a small hub compared to the rest of fucking Quebec where it was still French.
yeah, Quebec was like largely untouched. It's
Yeah.
in Montreal
Yeah,
where
but if
everything was happening.
Montreal is not like, if we don't protect like the Montreal like image, I mean, the rest of Quebec's gonna be affected.
Well, no, because you have Quebec
don't think
City.
so. Quebec City's
and
pretty
it
big.
it's not up to legislation to protect the language. It's up to
People.
to the French.
No, but I mean, all I'm saying is, what wrong with protecting the language? Like, guys,
I don't-
There's nothing wrong with
to
protecting
be
the
honest
language.
with you guys, like when it comes to politics, like I'm just that regular dude. I'm just gonna be like protect the French language because I kind of believe in this.
Oh yeah,
But
I
I
don't
mean-
disagree with that.
Because I cannot tell about. That's why I joke about to the left, to the right, because I have no fucking idea what that is. But I mean, what's wrong with protecting the language? You know, like, you go somewhere else, another country, they have their own fucking like a vertical, like, yes, we're French, this is it.
I agree.
Then we can disconnect a little, but I mean, hey, we have like one or two things to protect?
No,
you know?
I'm not saying that it shouldn't be protected.
Yeah.
I just think it should be enforced for a business sense, because then you're taking away an economic structure for that area, which then in turn causes problems for your language later, because if everyone leaves because they can't afford to live, then you're losing that
that
language.
I get, man. If you want to do business, you do
so
French.
like China,
you're
do you know that
stuck in
China
local.
in the next 20 years will be the highest population of English speakers in the world?
No shit. Like I
It's
cannot
fucking
I cannot
China.
develop about it,
To
but I
graduate high
understand
school
it,
in China, you have to be fully fluent in English, not Chinese, English.
Well, look, to
But
get
if
to
you-
both
if you-
your points.
yeah.
I went with work a couple of years back to Miami, and I remember it was me, Boris, and another guy. We decided, because we had free time after we were done our meetings and everything, and we said, "Where's a mall that we can go to?" And I think they told us it was Sawgrass or something like that. Anyways, dude, I think it was that. It might have been another place. Everything there was Spanish, dude. Signs. There was no English anywhere. I went into a store. I remember going into a Lego store. I went to ask the girl something. She just looked at me. No speak English. I'm like,
But where was that? I'm sorry.
in Florida.
Okay.
Florida, Miami, dude. This is like somewhere in Miami. And I
like
was
the
like,
second
holy
Cuba.
shit. And then next thing you know, like I was like, sure enough, like you're walking around. Everybody was Latino in there. There were obviously other Americans, like I guess white Americans and us, and couldn't, but whatever. We got around, but whatever. I'm just saying there was no laws there, but they kept.
But you
it.
figured it
But
out.
Chinatown in Montreal, like, is there any French sign? Like, I never noticed.
There's French signage, yeah.
There is,
French
but do you
signage.
have to put one?
No.
Okay.
But
But I was
the
gonna
thing-
say, is it comparable to Chinatown? Let's say.
Yes and no,
Yes
because
and
it's
no.
that would mean that the entire state is
No,
Little
but
Cuba.
to that region.
To that
he's
region,
not talking about
I
the
guess,
state.
I guess
you
it
know?
was a bit like that, yeah.
Yeah, it's
except,
gotta be, right?
except I think in Chinatown you could still go there. I think you can order something in French; they'll understand you, kind of thing.
I mean, they're not retarded. They know that they need to do business.
But it was just funny how that mall, though, dude. The girl
That was
legit could not answer me and nothing. I'm like, and I thought about it. I was like, man,
Yeah.
that's fucked up.
But you know what? I really like that. Like for some reason,
Yeah,
I really like that.
I like
I
that
think
too.
that like the fact that they're all able to coexist. There are no laws governing anything in terms of their language, and everybody just gets along.
But guys,
Everybody's
we're talking
able-
about Quebec. We're talking
Okay.
about what's Quebec. Like most of the population are in a few cities, right? I mean, if the language is gone in those main city, is it safe to say that it's gone everywhere?
No, because Montreal has a population of about 1.8, 1.9 million people versus 8 million people for the rest of Quebec. Montreal
where
was the only
shit
problem
happened?
area.
Shit happens in Montreal.
There was only
Yeah,
20%.
But the thing is
So
that
where-
why would that affect
That
the
was
rest
only
of
I'm asking a
20%.
question. Like,
So,
I mean,
No, that's it. I'm riffing on it. Like,
if it's, let's say, like, if Montreal becomes 100% English,
Yeah.
it won't, but yeah.
I'm just saying,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
I
But
kind
let's just
of.
say, okay,
Okay.
if Montreal is 100% English, what does that affect
Then
for the rest of
no,
Quebec?
I'm just like Montreal, like, isn't like it's the main city of Quebec, right? So if this become English, does it like kind of affect the rest of Quebec because Montreal is
the
English?
capital of Quebec is in Montreal.
I know that,
Yeah.
but I mean, but what
And
is
it's-
Quebec population between Montreal? First time I went to Quebec and I say I need to get there. It's fucking far.
First
they told
off,
me
it would never
it's
be
next
100%
door, you know?
English, just like now it's
I'm
not.
just going
Yeah.
to the extreme
Yeah.
here. You know?
Okay, just going to the extreme, even if that little fucking island was 100%
Okay.
English, it wouldn't affect the French language. And here's a good point from what I'm making for. I think the French language should be protected. However, when you're enforcing brand companies that are known globally around the world with the same name and having them put a "le" in front of it just to make it.
But
like,
why are they here in the first place? All I'm saying is,
They want to make money.
if I'm in Montreal, I shouldn't be having problem going anywhere because I speak French.
But I also shouldn't have any problem opening a business because I speak
why
English.
would a company would say you cannot speak the language?
No,
That's not what they're saying.
No,
It's-
the
it's
problem
that-
is
But he was just saying if business come here and they don't speak in English and it's
No,
French,
I
it's
didn't
not
say
gonna
speak
work.
English. I'm
there's-
talking about changing their branding so that it can be
branding, yeah.
like Le
Oh,
Home
okay.
Depot.
It's like the reason why these
Is
businesses
that really an
don't
issue
come.
though?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Well, Best Buy is Best Buy.
Staples
je
is
vois
still-
pas le meilleur achat, you know? Like,
That's because they
but
make
were
a lot
saying
of
that
money.
They want them. They were actually
no, a
saying,
brand, it's a brand.
But they were saying
No.
they wanted to change that
Yeah.
because, and I was looking at it from this other viewpoint instead of saying why the fuck. I was looking at it like this because when they said, "Well, does Best Buy really need to be meilleur achat?" Like
Yeah,
you
fuck
said,
that shit,
I mean,
man.
I'm like,
No,
but
it's Le Best Buy. Is what
but
they
it
want
doesn't
to
matter.
change it to.
They still needed to specify what it was. meaning Best Buy, and it had to say underneath that it was an electronics
Yes.
store.
Like,
I see that in French.
For
needs
me,
to
a
be in
brand's a
some
brand.
way.
Like
Yeah, but-
Netflix never is gonna be like le Flix de l'internet.
Right.
Yeah,
No,
wait,
it's
wait,
like
wait.
that, man.
But the funny thing is, they're making this argument for it. But I'm thinking about it. I'm like, what you're doing is you're basically saying, I'm talking as if you're the government is saying they wanted to do that. So I'm looking at it from this vantage point. I'm like, so if I was francophone,
Yeah.
and I see this, it's like they're insinuating that I'm an idiot because I don't know that Best Buy is an electronics store.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like everywhere else they don't say. I mean, in English, Best Buy, it doesn't say that it's an electronics store, but I know it
You
just
just
because it's a
know, yeah.
brand, right?
Yeah.
And
gotta
so
look
this
at
was
the
the
brand,
same thing.
yeah.
And I'm like, so basically what you're saying is that you're saying a francophone is an idiot, doesn't know what it is. You know what? That's what I looked at it.
I mean, there are some like proud Quebecers that would look at that, like, or not proud Quebecers, but to say like people that live in Quebec who are very proud of themselves, that would probably be insulted by that sort of thing. But I think that number is very
No,
low.
a brand's a brand, man. I think fucking like.
but that's the thing. It's not just the language in terms of business. Like it is a big thing because if they're asked to change signage or just the fear of knowing that you might be asked is enough to just make them
Yeah,
not
for
want
sure,
to do it. You know,
definitely.
that's one thing. And the other thing is the amount of taxation in this province.
Yeah, that's a
and
big
that's
factor.
completely ulterior to the situation of the language. But like to finish my thoughts on like the whole language thing in terms of the social aspect. I think that if we stand to protect, if we're going to protect the language, I think we'd stand a better chance if you don't legislate, because people are going to resent it, one way or the other. Even if the end goal is just, if it's something that you should work towards, the fact that you're being forced to do something against your will is enough to put people off.
But what's the thing that's forced to do against your will? Speaking French?
Okay,
Like,
no,
speaking-
no,
to
not speaking
you
French.
live in it. Well, first of all, there are some.
I'm
there
just
are
trying
some-
to follow his
yeah,
argument
yeah.
here.
Yeah, no, it's not.
Like
it's-
I'm
it's
hearing
not-
an English podcast, you know, like I'm totally aware
Exactly,
of the situation.
exactly. Like-
but I mean, I'm just trying to
Trying to understand.
speak to the people that try to protect their
Yeah.
their,
fair
their
enough.
history. You know,
Yeah.
if you're French, you're French. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
To me, like it just comes down to the fact that if you do create legislation, even if it doesn't directly affect you,
Yeah.
you're gonna feel that it does, and
Yeah.
it's gonna build resentment.
For sure.
One way or another, it's gonna build resentment. Of
course.
And it just doesn't need to be done.
It's
if
the
you
same thing on the other end. Like, look, okay, right now it's about language, whatever. You got to look at originally what was the reason for a separatist movement rising. Okay, the whole point was because
the rest
there's
of the country is not at all like Quebec. That's their main.
yeah, but you can
reason.
argue that and say Newfoundland is not like BC, and that is the
Yes,
truth
and that is
at
the
all.
Yeah,
argument.
but a lot of it was Montreal was turning much more English. It was very business.
It was
yes.
there was different. It was
Well-
not the fact that it was turning English.
No, that
It
was one thing, but
it
a
was
minor
one
thing.
thing, but that was a minor thing. It was the fact. Okay, let's go back with history right now. Let's just go with some historic things. Okay, French were Catholic. A lot of English were Protestant. Okay. The only other Anglophones that were also Catholic was half of the Irish population that was here.
Yeah.
Okay, and what happened was in the French side, the Catholic religion dominated, you might say, those people. Okay, the Francophones, in the sense that like everybody went to church, and they were saying they pretty much. They encouraged procreation, so they had huge families. What happens when you have a huge family? Can you send your kid no, you got your oldest one is probably going to take care of the ninth youngest child or whatever, you know. So, and obviously this creates a monetary strain on the family. Then you have on the Anglophone side, the Irish. There was a good chunk that were poor, and they were also the Catholic side. But then the ones that were not Catholic, what was it? No, just have a couple of kids. Let them, send them to school, get them their education. So what happens is then they ended up being the leaders in businesses and everything, and everybody else, the small portion of the uneducated Anglophones, and then all the majority of Francophones that didn't have the money to go to the school. So they started resenting what was going on. And plus the English, well, they were fucking treating them like shit.
You're touching on something that I want to riff on after.
Yeah. So then obviously it was just a matter of time before eventually some people rose up, caused a movement, and this had toppled, changed the balance.
The power structure.
The power structure. So now the ones that had businesses started leaving, and now you saw that there was still a good chunk of Anglophones that stayed, but these were not ones that owned businesses.
No.
And then they're the ones that started resenting because now they felt that although they had nothing to do with the ones that were in power and the ones that didn't have the power, it's just that they started resenting what was going on
That's the identity war.
And that's the identity war. Then now
Yeah.
we have this identity war. But I also think that, and so that's what it was before. So they put laws, whatever. I get it. Now everything is cool. But if you look at younger generations, guys younger than us, whether they're Anglophone or Francophone, they have no problem speaking each other's languages now.
That's
for
it.
sure.
It's different
It's
because
very different, yeah.
I mean, we are in the middle of what our parents went through and what
Yeah.
the younger generation are, right? So, I mean, and I could say my parents, but my parents didn't even go through it because they were immigrants. They just came here and just followed whatever was going on.
Yeah.
But I'm sure your parents was different, or grandparents
definitely,
probably.
yeah. For
See,
sure.
and the thing that you're touching on that I wanted to elaborate on a little bit, but that you didn't explicitly say, is a matter of culture. And everybody's going to be shitting on me after this one, and fuck all of you, because this is pretty important. Is that a lot, because of what you just explained, a huge amount of Quebecers have a strong disdain for like wealth and that kind of corporate or any kind of like business like structure where you're given some sort of power. They really resent that sort of thing, to the point where some make it like their life's mission to not be rich. They don't want to be like that. They don't want to be those kind of people. And that, I think, also plays a pretty big factor into the attitudes that they have towards Anglos, because they just see Anglos coming in and wanting to start businesses and gain power over us, kind of thing. And that also has a lot to do with people that came from Europe. They had a very different mentality from the people here. Like that's why so many of the hard workers are usually the immigrants. They come here and they have nothing.
They didn't even know about the problems that was going on.
All they do is take on the work that they can take on, and it just so happens that because they have such a strong fear of being as poor as they were when they came from, it drives them to work harder and harder and harder and harder, to the point of it being just completely irrational for some people. They really get like, if you're not at work every day, even if you're sick, fuck you, you're a waste of a human being. Like my grandmother, whenever she sees me at home, forget it. I am the biggest fucking disappointment this family has ever seen. Even though I'm like twice as educated as anybody in the family prior, even though I'm making more money at my age than anybody in the family ever has, I'm still a fucking degenerate because I'm at home when I could be working. You're like, well, who cares if you're sick? Fuck you. You're supposed to work. Like, that's the kind of mentality that those people had. And when you clash these two kinds of ideas together, you kind of make excuses, and one of the excuses ends up being language.
Well,
you throw it in there, it's almost a bigoted thing, but no, not bigoted. Bigoted is the wrong word. It's not even nationalist. It's
Superiority complex.
It's a matter of having a problem with superiority or even inferiority.
I just want to ask a question. We talk about culture. We talk about like Quebec. Like the not our image, but our history and all that. Like, if we lose the language, what else do we have? What's our identity in Quebec?
There's the rest of your culture, really.
Yeah, but tell me about it.
Des chasseurs de bois.
Yeah, but tell me about it.
Every state, for example,
What
has
I'm
history,
saying is, I think
but-
that's why people's grabs to the French language so much, because at the end of the day, it's to the common people, like not common, I mean to the most people, it's all we know.
Well, it's one of the biggest. It's the most tangible
if we
thing you
lose
can
our
grab
French,
onto. Yeah.
what the fuck we gonna?
But you know what?
Well, here's
We can't talk
something-
about their history,
But
the battles and all that.
but you know what the other thing is, that if
But-
you get into that though, you compare like Quebec culture to Anglo culture to
Yeah,
American
well,
culture.
that's what I'm saying. Like, if you talk to
but the
most,
thing is that it's all the same.
yeah, but if you
know?
talk to most like Quebecois people, like if we lose French, what's our identity?
Let
you know?
me pose this to you.
Yeah.
France has a metropolitan area, Paris, that speaks English.
Yeah.
Why would it be in danger here but not in France?
No, I think it's the same thing, man. Like it's the
But
Well,
they
France
don't have
has
any
language
problem.
laws,
They do,
but
you
they're
can still
ridiculous.
conduct-
Like people laugh,
Yeah.
like the French laugh at those laws constantly.
Okay, so you may have a language law there, but if it's not enforced,
But
if it's
what's
not
French
enforced-
culture now?
But they didn't lose their culture having a metropolitan area conducting business in English.
Okay, but that's them. But I'll ask my question again.
What is the culture
if
in
we're in
Quebec?
Quebec, like if we lose our language, let's say French, it's no longer the first language. Now it's English. If you speak French, it doesn't really matter.
I think it'll still have its own culture, just like
But
you.
what?
Okay, but wait, hold on.
No,
Before,
the culture doesn't go
Cuisine.
away.
to try to answer this in as best as I could, because I never had this question asked to me.
I can't even answer that. You know what I'm saying?
I think I can.
But
I'm
like, look, okay, you got like some people will say, well, if it loses, let's say the language, well then Quebec has no identity. But that's not true, because it just becomes an evolution, because like Newfoundland has its own culture.
Mm-hmm. But
it's Canadian. But it is Canadian.
But describe it.
But it's different. I can't describe it.
Exactly.
But it's different than BC. Just like New York is different than Texas.
Yeah.
Like there's difference. It's the same country.
They're all Americans, but they have
he's
different.
specifically talking about a language, but
That's it.
My answer to this
please,
is
please.
you have cuisine. Well, you know what? Before I even say that, you have to think about what is culture. What makes up culture?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like to the most, people, to the most Quebecois people,
It's
It's
It's just the French language.
Don't try to tell me poutine is a fucking culture.
No.
you know what I'm saying?
Well, I mean, it is a part of our culture.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, at the end of the day, if all you have to talk about, I mean,
but it's not,
about.
and that's not what I mean
that's
by
what I'm
cuisine.
asking.
So
for
okay.
most people, and I consider myself to be one of the most people, if you lose French, what's your culture?
Well, then I think that's a really poor view of your own culture, man.
It's
you guys,
not.
you have the Montreal fucking Canadiens.
Ask people
the
around.
second team in all of sports history to have the most
just
championship wins.
It's just a sport team, yeah.
but it's still a part
matters.
of culture. It's still culture.
But-
okay, but then what? Like your culture
You
is a
have
hockey.
music.
It's a hockey team.
you have
It's a
music.
part of it.
You
But
have-
every culture has
you
music.
have
I mean, what?
film that's specifically made here that
But we can say that
wins
about
awards.
anything else. I think
But
I think
that's
But those are
yeah,
all
but
culture.
I totally understand that, but I think for most people, what we grab on the most, it's our language.
Well, yes, but here's the thing. So,
So if
so-
we
but
if we lose that, what we gotta talk about? Like,
But
oh,
what- okay, what I
we
really
had
wanna know is-
we had fucking Les La Vigueur.
Why
and,
do you
know what I
believe
mean?
it'll be lost?
I'm just asking the
I
question.
know,
This
but-
is why people
but
fight for it so much.
It's a jump to an extreme, but why do you believe it'll be lost where no other country
This is why
in
we
the world
fight
has
for
done
it.
I think we
This
would
is why
still
we
be.
fight
No
for it.
other country has lost their language like
Yeah,
that in the modern world.
it is. It's the thing about asking the question is yes, it's hypothetical, but in
Yeah, I know.
reality,
I'm in the extreme here. you
in
know?
reality, it's never gonna happen.
Yeah.
Just for the sheer fact that it's a language that is being spoken. The only way it's ever gonna happen really is if the French in Quebec are all either deported, exiled, or killed.
It's like we have a
It's just
pool.
not gonna happen.
You have
But
a
with that
pool.
gonna happen
But
with time, though. Like we're
happens
talking
if
about
we all
evolution
drown in the
more
pool?
and more and more and more. Are we
Well,
gonna
here's the
less
thing.
and less
Here's the
and
thing
less
about that.
French?
Any population will evolve no
Yeah,
matter
exactly.
what. No
Oh,
matter
for
what.
sure.
Like for
Okay,
all.
but
But wait,
for-
hold on. But for all we know, English can eventually go away.
Yeah.
But it doesn't
Yeah.
matter. It's not gonna happen in our lifetime. But what I'm saying, what I was trying to get at is like if you're saying French defines what Quebec is, and that's like saying, well, if England speaks English, the United States speaks English, and Australia speak English, does that mean that they all have the same culture?
Yeah,
Because
but
they
there's
don't.
no. You're totally right to say that, but I mean, there's so many things, some culture like we can refer to just when you look at people, they have different culture. But for the most Quebecois people, when we talk about culture, the language, it's one of the main things.
See now, if you were to ask them,
You talk about cuisine, but I mean,
I don't speak-
You talk
if it's
about
really that important-
A lot of people-
It is.
If it's really that
For the most
important, you
people,
won't
it is.
lose it. If it's really the most
that's why we
important
fight
thing-
for it. It's all I'm
but
saying.
you know,
How about
you
this?
can't lose it if it's the most important thing. Whether there's legislation or not, you're still gonna speak to your kids in French, and those kids will still speak French to their kids if it's that important.
That's what I'm saying.
If it's at the bottom of your list, you're not gonna lose it regardless of if everyone's speaking English in front of you.
Also, another thing I was going to say, the Irish in Ireland, before they didn't speak English, they spoke Gaelic.
Yeah.
And when they got invaded, they started learning English, and that accent is actually an accent that came from Gaelic, but they teach it. They teach that, you might say, that accent to their kids because their kids pick it up. So this different way of speaking English is just because of how their original Gaelic accent. Now they came here, and there's a lot of Irish that have been here for 200 years. They still hold true to their Irish roots and everything. They didn't lose shit. I'm just.
I know what you're saying.
you know,
It's not
like,
about like
even though they have nothing
it's
to do with
jumping
Ireland
to an
anymore.
extreme, but it's
But-
like you're saying, okay, I'm telling you, we're gonna open a pool in the backyard, but most francophones are jumping to the extreme of but what if everyone drowns in the pool? That's literally the extreme. But what if everyone drowns in the pool?
Yeah, I'm just trying to make a point.
No,
That's why we
I
fight
get it.
for
point-
I
I think the
think
point-
I think there's no
that I think
real
is
answer.
brought up way too much. We're gonna lose the culture. First off, your language isn't the only culture that you have. You have a lot of other
100%,
things.
I know that.
The second thing is, if it's really that important, you're not going to lose it. Yeah. Conducting business in one part of the metropolitan area, where it's not it's not like you're not allowed to speak French. You're gonna. Besides, it is like that. We do have laws now, and you still have to speak English to international businesses because that's the international language. This is a part of any international metropolitan area. You're gonna have English there, regardless if there's a law or not. That's just the way it works. It's like this now, and there's laws for it.
Singapore's second language
like,
is
I
English
mean,
because the entirety of the place.
I don't think Quebec will lose
My
the French.
opinion, like it's based on Generation X. You know, like people a bit older than me. I'm telling you guys, like what.
Oh
is
yeah,
most
I know. I
important to
believe you.
them,
I
it's
believe
their
you.
language.
I believe
And
you.
you know, like,
So that's why, like, please, guys, I
believe
don't
you.
want Best Buy to be called Le Best Buy.
Well,
you know what I'm saying?
Staples is Bureau en gros. It's not Staples here.
yeah.
But that they weren't forced to do that.
They-
that was just their choice.
That was
No,
their
sure,
Okay,
sure.
but
But I'm
what-
just trying to say, there's an example of a brand known globally, but here is different.
I don't know if it's globally. I think it's just.
It's
See, well,
Staples
no,
centers in
it's,
the US.
it's
Oh, there is?
international.
Yeah.
Oh,
at least.
okay. Okay, I
But
didn't know that.
so just to finish up a point on that is that, let's say somehow we were to eradicate the French language, but the Quebecers are still here. What's left? Well, if you can't answer that question, what culture are you protecting really?
Well, that's what I'm saying, man. Like that's why I've been saying since the beginning. For most people, for
But
most
what-
Quebecers,
Then
if-
what's your answer? Like, because do you say there is a culture? Like, if you
Because-
were to remove the French language,
Aside from language, do you have a culture?
Yeah,
is
because
there-
just a language is not
well,
a
then
culture.
it just comes to everything else Vince says. There's movie, there's music, there's all of these things like
Yeah.
people we can relate to, like our history and all that. But the main,
Our religion
the main
is a
thing,
part of
yeah,
it.
Religion. But where is that now? But the main thing we have, it's language. It's all I'm saying.
It's the main thing that
Fine.
Quebecers do have, but
all
at
I'm
the
saying.
same time, if you think about it, there's probably a lot more.
To me, that's
There
the
is
thing.
a lot
Yeah,
more.
there is.
But that is
But
just as
50
substantially
But
important.
51% of it, it's language.
But to me, that's like saying, dude, if
That's
you're a
what I'm saying.
metalhead, if you cut your hair when you're a metalhead, that's all you have as a culture.
No, that's.
Well, it sounds ridiculous, but some people do
51% of it
believe
is your
that,
hair.
you know?
Yeah,
I wouldn't say that, man. I don't
I
think.
wouldn't say
I
that
don't
about
think a
the French
metalhead is
either.
defined by the length of your hair. That's
No,
a
but
different
Well, it's a
story,
big
man.
thing. You could always tell a metalhead by how
Oh, for sure, and I'm pretty sure, like people, metalheads, I think they're true metalheads that would probably gonna
Right.
say, yeah, but I don't think they're true metalheads.
just like
like-
a lot of francophones.
That will
The
say-
language isn't your only culture. In fact, it's just a part
I
of
never
what you
said
have.
that.
And,
No,
and,
no,
and the
he's
thing,
not saying that. I know that. He's not saying that.
But the real thing that people should probably pick up on is that the rest of Quebec, this is not a question. Nobody gives a shit because the rest of Quebec is super majority French,
Yeah.
like 95%
Yeah.
French, and they're never gonna have an issue with this thing. But in Montreal, specifically, because really this is only where the only place where the problem really is in Montreal.
It's the main city.
It's one of the main cities, but
It's the main city.
it's everybody's favorite city, but the main city is Quebec City.
Really?
It's his capital.
No,
Higher
okay.
yes, yes.
Economically,
no.
Higher
economically,
population.
it's
Oh,
Montreal.
guys,
when you hear Quebec,
Main city
you'll
of
hear
fucking
nothing
Quebec is
Montreal.
Montreal, man.
Economic-
Why is Montreal the capital?
Well, we also.
I don't
This
know.
was
Don't
a
ask me
long
that
ago,
question.
but-
No, that's
Not
like saying
long
why
time.
is
Why is New York's not the capital of the state?
Yeah,
I have
it's
no
Albany.
idea, man. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Regardless.
no, but you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah,
What I'm-
Yeah, no, I
I'd
understand.
like to put something out there before I think we're running over
Yeah,
time. But
a little.
That's okay. That's okay. It's okay. Once
I'd
in a
like to-
while, an
It's
hour
good,
and a half
it's good.
podcast is okay.
I'd like to throw this out there that in all of Canada,
Yes.
the most culture from Canada comes from Quebec. And that's not a language thing. You take away the language, you still have the culture for Canada is mostly Quebec's shit.
It's our traditions. It's les chasseurs du bois went all across Canada. You know, the furs went everywhere, and then the business went everywhere, and the sociability went everywhere. The cuisine went everywhere, and people don't realize just how powerful cuisine is as a cultural
It is.
driver.
And
It's probably if we're gonna say that language is the most important, then cuisine is the second most important.
because
It's a part of the 49%.
you were talking about poutine, you don't consider it. But give me a Canadian dish.
A Canadian dish?
I can
Yeah.
give
I
you
have
a
no
bunch.
fucking idea.
I know you can.
Technically, you could say Putin is, but where did it
But yeah,
start?
but we're here, man.
That's what I'm talking about. Internationally known that poutine. Now you attribute that.
Hey.
But people will say that's attributed to Canada, but no, internationally it's attributed to Quebec.
I rather
you have that culture.
I rather think of a culture as French language than just a fucking poutine, man.
No, we're saying Putin, but it doesn't have to be
I'm
Putin.
just trying to
There's-
say that
I'm saying poutine. It's a
As a
great
Canadian
portion of the
thing-
40.
as a
That-
Canadian thing-
Raclette, or whatever it's
as a
called.
Canadian thing known
Maybe it's
globally,
48%.
as a
But
Canadian thing known
I
globally.
reject the premise of 51% being the language.
So do I, 100%.
I
I
think
think it's
that
a part of it.
I
but
think
you're
it's a strong
saying this,
chunk.
but he's saying this, but he's the francophone. So at the same time it's like
yeah, but what did I say earlier?
I'm not saying anybody's right. I'm just saying you got to look at it from both sides.
Yeah, no, and I understand.
As a francophone, you're saying that as a non-francophone.
Right, but I'm also bilingual, and I also understand and respect the
I'm
reason
fucking
behind.
bilingual as well, man.
Yeah.
Most of my day at work is English. My friends are English, most of them. I mean,
Right.
But at the end of the day, like I was grown up into a French family, and I saw how it was then. I see how it is now. I understand why older people they feel threatened because, like I said, it's all they can grab to. Because don't talk about my father or to my grandparents about movies and fucking boots, and they don't give a fuck. All they want is the fucking Lois Hour, man. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but that to me I find is a failing of the people because they're unwilling to understand
but
the
in
rest
20 years,
of
it's
their
going to be
culture.
different stories.
It might
They're
be
not going to be
different.
there
I
anymore.
would hope so because, dude, Quebec has a lot of culture to hold on to. They have a lot of good traditions.
And
First
aside
of all,
from culture, I think Quebec has, not just because I live here.
bro, the best women. Are you serious?
Well,
But
that's
no,
something,
just
though.
everything. I find Quebec has so much potential. I just think there's just a lot that's hindering it. Like I might bitch about Quebec, so people will say, "Well, why are you so anti-Quebec? Why don't
No
you
matter
leave?"
where you
no,
live, you'll
because
bitch about it.
because yeah, but that's another thing. If I live here, it's because I like it here. So if I'm bitching about it, it's because I want it to be better.
Exactly.
You know, like
I don't want to live anywhere else.
Oh, something I want to bring up before we go.
Okay.
Okay, but before we end this, you know that this is one thing that has never been done in Quebec, but it's done in the States, but it's just as bad if it were done in Quebec. In the States, okay, if like we were talking about left and right, basically, because you said you didn't know what that was, it's basically conservative. Left is liberal, and right would be conservative, right? So them, they have Democrat and they have Republicans.
It's pretty much the most I can say about it.
Right. Okay. Over there, right now, it's like if you're a Democrat, right now they got a Republican president, and you bitch about the president, man, you're like holy shit, you know, like it's bad. Like the first band or whoever it was, whatever, that decided to turn the American flag upside down. This is like what the fuck? You're talking about a really patriotic fucking nation. Mm-hmm. If you turn the Canadian flag, it's like, there will be people that will bitch, but whatever. But in Quebec, imagine the first person that's going to take the Quebec flag, and he's a francophone, and it's going to turn it upside down because he's going to say, fuck the government, fuck this, fuck that. Man, imagine the backlash that guy's going to get. Yeah. It's going to be just as bad, but no one has had the balls yet in Quebec to do that. But I'm waiting for that day that will happen. I'm sure that one day that will happen, just like the way shit has happened in the States. In the States, it's the same thing. They're so proud to be American, and people invert that flag. And I'm just saying,
true in American, like US, you see that often.
Yeah. But I'm saying, like, imagine. I mean, I'm just saying invert the flag, but there's a lot of people that bash whatever's going on. Imagine doing that in Quebec. No one has had the real balls to go really publicly and really fucking go anti.
To make a public statement
and pop culture.
I've never seen that.
Yeah, I've never seen that. But imagine when that's gonna happen.
But I find that in America, there's a bit of a difference there. They're patriotic, while here we're nationalistic. There's a difference.
Yeah.
The easiest way to describe the difference to me would be patriotic is I love my country, and nationalistic is I love being American. There's a difference there.
There is.
I think they do love
blindly
them,
fall.
No, they definitely do, but there are plenty of people who resent it also. But to make the distinction in terms of our discourse is to say nationalism is I am proud to be a Quebecer, and patriotism would be I am proud of Quebec.
Okay.
You know.
Yeah.
I think that's why when people say that like American patriotism is disgusting, I think you're a fucking idiot. You don't know what you're talking about. That to me, I would rather be patriotic than nationalistic, because of that distinction. There's nothing wrong with saying I love my country. Look at everything that either of our countries stand for.
I'm
freedom of speech, freedom of assembly, freedom of self, freedom of enterprise.
I'm proud to be both. I guess in that aspect, I'm both patriot and nationalist for Canada. And you like to goad me by saying USA, and it's the greatest country ever. And I don't
USA.
agree. I don't think that there's a big disparity other than fucking the population size and how much money they have.
No, I think that there is. I would still say that America still stands tall as the best, simply because they're a lot more serious about keeping freedoms intact.
Sure, but I don't.
That's the only difference. That's really it.
I don't want to live there.
It's to me, it would
That's
be a
fine.
really
You
hard
don't want to
thing.
live in Toronto.
Funny how like the States would say it's about to keep freedom intact, but here it's how to keep our language intact. I mean, see, like
But there are things that are but that's the thing though. Freedom as an ideology.
I would
as a
rather
concept.
keep my freedom. That's for sure.
Exactly, and it's a very like people really don't give as much attention to the concept as they should. I think because if you're gonna learn anything from the past, do not repeat the past.
Out of this conversation, speak English, French, Spanish, Chinese, Japanese. Hey, if you have your freedom, I think you're doing okay, right?
You're perfectly fine.
I don't like some people don't have the freedom to speak the language that they want.
Yeah, that's also true.
That's the other thing, and that is one of the major reasons why one of the reasons why I brought up the example of how in America there are no laws and yet all languages there flourish, is specifically because of that, because they all appreciate that they came from tyranny. They appreciate that they fought the wars that they fought and that they are as aggressive as they are and as militaristic as they are because they want to protect that so badly. And even though nobody can properly articulate that,
No, they can't because they're born into it. They don't know the struggles of the past.
They just
it's just
take it for
ingrained.
granted.
It's just ingrained.
They just take it for granted. Exactly.
It's kind of like I think you said it better than what I was trying to say before about language in Quebec. I think now it's more of something that's ingrained rather than something to fight for. Before it was
100%.
actually fighting for it.
Right.
Whereas now I feel like I don't see that need to fight. I think now it's just passed down.
In 20, 30 years, it's going to be so much different here.
I really hope so because it all falls
that.
into the same vein as the social justice activists and things like that, where in the beginning there is legitimate grievance and you do need to make a change. But the problem is that these people monetize off of this activism. So when the battle is won, what do? You stop making money? Or do you manufacture a problem so you can continue to make money?
And also, in order to make a change, it has to go to the extreme. And did Quebec go to an extreme to get it to this level? It did.
I just want to throw
and
this
that's
out
why
there.
it worked, and that's why we're out where we are.
I'm going to throw this out there. I'm 100% Anglophone.
Yeah.
My French isn't that great. I understand every word you say to me, but my speaking is shit. I have good friends who are Francophone from Rouyn-Noranda, like the guys from Rusted and everything. Now, I may be Anglophone, and that may be seen as a threat to the French language if there wouldn't be laws, if we would conduct everything in English. But let me tell you this. When I'm in Toronto or any other part of Canada, someone is about to talk shit about the French, I will be the first person there to defend that shit and be the first one to put that person down. So I think dividing the languages in Quebec is not the way to go. We need to it would be a better unison together to spread that to the rest of the country.
But that's what we do, don't we? We have both language. Like if there's two,
but it's still always about a language war. Like,
I know, guys. Like I was talking about, like I think Generation X is the key here. That's why I was saying 20 years is going to be so much different. I mean, I'm not a big believer that in order to live in Quebec, we need to speak French, but I understand why people want to protect it.
I think the mentality of going about it by separating the two into two
I would never.
At the end of the day, I know I'm not going to be successful in what I do if I don't speak English.
No,
you know what I'm saying? Like I'm aware of that. You know,
I don't begrudge them for wanting to protect the language. I just think the way it's being going about it is not the right way. Because as a person who has Francophone friends, primarily Francophone friends, I, as an Anglophone, even though I had so much trouble growing up and being bullied by French kids for being English, I still go there and defend them. I'll still go there and defend French. There was an issue in Toronto where a guy came up and he was scaring this girl who was with me. So my buddy Tom was next to me. He sticks his hand out and he doesn't shake his hand. So the guy, this fucking cunt, goes to him and says, well, that's not very Canadian of you. The first thing out of my fucking mouth, and I'm the only English guy in the group, I said, we're not fucking Canadian, we're Quebecer. Why? Because he was fucking scaring her. And he has the audacity to come in and say, that's not very fucking Canadian? Fuck you. Yeah. And you know what? As soon as we didn't back, he gave us a glare, and we didn't back down. In fact, I moved a little bit forward. I was like, what are you going to do? Because I was really pissed off that he was doing this shit. He backed the fuck off. As soon as he realized that he wasn't getting, like, I wasn't backing down, he was just glaring and glaring, and his friend noticed, like, holy shit, this isn't gonna be cool. He pulls him into a cab. He's like, listen, we're really sorry. As soon as he's in the cab, he yells out, the Fleur de Lis is bullshit. I was like, fuck you, man. Fuck. See, I will defend this fucking province and and the language, regardless of how I feel about the languages.
As irrationally as possible.
And before we go, where does the Fleur de Lis come from? Because I always used to think it was Quebec, but it's not just Quebec. It's Louisiana's got this. New Orleans.
Everywhere, it's French. Basically,
so
everywhere that takes a strong French influence is going to hang on to the Fleur de Lis.
Because I know Phil Anselmo even has that. tattooed.
Yeah,
on
he's
him.
from New Orleans, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
New Orleans, yeah.
Yeah, everybody that's from there has that. Anybody from a place that has strong French roots,
Yeah.
you'll see a fleur de lis somewhere
So,
for sure.
I think it's time to end this.
All right.
We
Hey,
went
my
off.
last word is, you know
Final
what?
Confessions.
Radio Shack sounds so much better than La Source.
Even in French, Radio
Even in
Shack,
French,
man.
man, it sounds so much better.
Radio Shack.
Final Confessions.
Final confession is the world right now is in a pretty shitty spot, and I think that we need to all pull a fucking Quebec and get together and be extreme for a little bit and try to fight back, but at the same time, know where the battle ends and fucking rescind once the battle's over.
That's true.
And stop being a fucking idiot, and that's it.
Know your role. And I have nothing to say, actually.
So
I really don't, basically, I don't know. I don't really have any final confessions. All I'll say is if you liked what we talked about, or even if you didn't like what we talked about, fucking leave comments. Like
Especially if you didn't like what we talk about.
Yeah. The whole point is we do this podcast. We have fun doing it, discussions, whatever. You don't have to agree with us, but if you find us interesting for whatever reason, fucking comment on us. I don't know. Spread the word. Like us. Subscribe
Say
to us.
shit.
Share.
If you hated
whatever.
everything we had to say, especially share that, because that's how we get
us on
fucking
top
famous.
10. Get us on
You
top
don't
10.
need to fucking love us to share us.
So
Let's do one of the thing. Like, comment, or share, man. Just one, man. Come on, do something.
And subscribe.
comments.
Subscribe on
especially.
YouTube.
But all right, so
What
this is
about
a very long. He had his final confession.
Yeah.
We touched on a lot of
That's your shack
subjects. This is a
tabac.
very long podcast, but I think it's a very good one, especially near the end when we got into an in-depth debate and discussion about languages in this province. My whole take on that is more towards the language side. I may not agree with the laws for languages, but I will fight to the death of the right I will defend that language in any other part of the world. No matter what, even here, I want you guys to have your language. I just think that we can do better if there's no law, if there's a law that doesn't restrict us from conducting business with the rest of the world. That's the only thing, because I have really good fucking French friends, and I do want them to be able to speak their language no matter where they are and be able to communicate and travel here. But I also think people coming in should have that same right with being able to speak English as well. That's my final confession. Definitely a very serious topic. And I only got a couple words to say to you. See ya!
That's a good range.
That's a great range.
You guys, did you
I have
say
a
you
high
guys
range,
at
but I
the
have
end?
nothing else to
Fucking
get down to
did you
down.
say I
You
wish
know what's
you
really
guys.
funny? Even I can't go too low in bass.
But-
I have
You guys.
Actually, no, I can go bass, but what I'm saying is if you want me to sing in that really high tone, I can do it. But try to tell me to sing with a nice voice, can't fucking.
I didn't